Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. My name is Elise. Welcome to my tea table. Thanks for being here. We're here for a Constitution study group. It's been a few weeks since I've done this. Actually, I did one a couple weeks ago, but I did it really early in the morning and had actually looked over the latest budget, budget act that had been passed. So I'm not really going to look at budgeting too much today, but we are going to be talking about money, specifically money needed for bailouts, and going to be looking at some articles, looking at the constitutionality of bailouts. And it's not too soon now to comment on the current cycle of bailouts that we're dealing in, but I did find an article in NPR News evaluating the current evaluation or the current situation with the bailout, specifically the payroll protection program, the PPP loans that everybody's been talking about. There's been $800 billion distributed through those loans, most of which will be paid for by the government. Hey Don, good to see you. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by, saying hello. Always good to see you. Hi Anna, how are you doing? Thanks for dropping in. I'm gonna start out with drinking some tea on Instagram. You can't really see my tea today. The filter is cutting everything out because I'm in a sea of cash. And here on stream, I'm at the what do they call this? Fort Knox. I'm printing some money. We're back. We're in the backstage area of Fort Knox printing money for these $800 billion of bailouts that have been distributed. So we'll look at this article, which was published yesterday, and kind of assessing what the analysts believe have been the immediate economic responses to the PPP loans. And then I will look at an article from 2008. Which was a very big bailout, a very controversial bailout, that's specifically talking about the constitutionality of bailouts. Because as always, as we've been learning through this education series, this co-learning education series, the Constitution is simply a protocol for how we can all have ample amount of politeness with one another. Like, how can we maintain politeness with each other? I'm gonna get the tea view in today. I am using just my simple white gaiwan. This is actually my favorite gaiwan to use. The only thing is these do break quite quickly. I don't know if you can see the little chip there. They do break, but they last, and they're cheap enough. Which is barking at something. So I'm going to be drinking some Gushu Shangpur from Nanoshan. Oh, that's so funny. It's like, no, the tea is money. This is a 2019 old growth, beautiful, organic. Actually, I shouldn't even use the word organic, because what the term they use there is ecological farming, where they don't even add organic manures or fertilizers to their tea gardens. You know, the tea does end up growing a lot slower. They get smaller yields, which does play with the economics for the tea producers, but there's such a strong domestic appreciation of good quality tea, especially tea that's coming from these older trees, that the farmers can afford to do that because the local market is going to appreciate it. Now, we can't say that much for the international market, such as here in the United States. A tea like this, I'm not really able to bring into the market just because its value is so high, and people here don't quite understand it. Not quite yet. Soon. You know, we're putting in the work. We're all here now to learn how to be connoisseurs, how to be present in our sensations, in our appreciation, and our value. and our capacity for politeness, which is what the Constitution Study Group is all about. So yeah, what do you think? What do you all think? Do you think that politicians that work in an emergency situation, do have the full capability of managing our capacity for politeness between one another during, financial strife? And yeah, I think it's a big question. So, I don't know any answers. I just saw this article today and I figured, okay, this would be a good thing to jump into. I definitely think that there's places for social programs that do support our capacity for politeness with one another, but giving out money to corporations, is that doing it? Is that really, on the grand scale of things, contributing to our capacity for politeness with one another? Hey Laura, good to see you. Much love. Yeah, I'm in a sea of cash today. Hanging out, talking about money. Oh man, this tea is so good. It's just what I needed. Whew, nice and warming. Like immediately here is just like opening everything up with warmth. It's like a flood. Apologies for missing stream yesterday. I'd actually started getting things set up and I was going to start gaming, so I think I'm going to change my Tuesday evening programming to be not doing... Oh, you want to try this tea? And I'm sure you would love to try this tea. I can send you a small sample, but it's nothing that we would ever import on a regular basis because it's really valuable. But I do have some. I can send you a sample on your next order. I'd be happy to do that. But by the time I finished all of my chores for the day yesterday and my work and got things set up for the stream, I realized I was very tired and I knew I wouldn't have been a good host. And plus I'm streaming something new, and so I want to make sure the first time I do some gaming content with you all that I am very focused in my mind and able to produce some good content, because I'm new to gaming. I even gaming in general. I think I had like a Nintendo Wii. No, I didn't even have the Wii. I had the Game Box. That was called the Game Box. I played some Legend of Zelda games and Super Monkey Ball. That was as deep into gaming as I gotten. But I want to get more into it. There's an NFT-based card game called Punk Dough. I don't really know a whole lot about it. Like, it's a very new concept for me. It's like a card game, and I definitely haven't played card games. But I think it would be a good content. It's cryptocurrency based, so I can only imagine the dialogue and the interactivity with the game would be really on brand and on message with what we do here on this channel. Additionally, today I just learned about a game where you run a tea farm. It's like a tea farm simulator where you run a tea farm and a tea factory in India. So I definitely know I will be playing that game. That one looks like it has some pretty cool graphics made by some Indian video game developers in collaboration with the tea estate. And so I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of incorrect information in this game, or there could be a lot of really great correct information that would be really good learning for us about how the commercial tea industry works exactly. So It's not exactly the way that the tea growers that we work with are growing and producing tea, but always something to learn. So I think on Tuesday nights I'll be switching from doing the art streams to doing more video game content. All right, so before I jump into the current status, the evaluation in NPR News about the current PPP loans, let's look at the past. Let's look at what's been already discussed in the past, what we can learn from. I always like learning from the past. I think it's all relevant, it's all important. All right, so this is from the Cato Institute, which is, it's like a law politics institute. Let me check the about. I didn't even have to do that. That's convenient. Man, that's good web design right there. Kudos to whoever designed this site. The Cato Institute has released its 2019 annual report, which documents a dynamic year of growth and productivity. High-quality research, the hallmark of Cato's work, plays a crucial role in the battle of ideas. But this research must be grounded in the moral vision of a free and just society, and communicating this vision has always been a vital part of Cato's work. So that's it. I mean, I guess that's... Oh, this is cool. This seems like a cool report. Economics in One Virus, what have we learned? What we've learned about public policy and the economic reasoning that has informed it over the last year. Looks like there's some cool stuff here. I don't know about the politics of this organization, but it seems pretty libertarian. I mean, maybe it's not partial. Seems like it might be. But yeah, it is a libertarian. It is a libertarian organization, but that's fine. You know, I think we can judge it as we go reading this article, but I think it'll be cool. But yeah, I always gotta be mindful whenever it's something coming from the Libertarian Party. Although if you look at the manifesto for the Libertarian Party, it seems, wow, that's pretty incredible. That seems like common sense, how we should be running everything. But unfortunately, a lot of that party and that ideology has been co-opted and converted into something else. All right, so is the bailout constitutional? Hey Jesse, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Every Wednesday, I do a Constitution study group. I know it sounds boring, but how can it be boring whenever it's raining? They're making it rain. We're talking about the constitutionality of bailouts, of financial bailouts today. I've been doing this series every week since the beginning of the pandemic. We're at over 60 episodes now. And we've learned a lot about the Constitution. Basically, it's just how can we increase our capacity for politeness with one another. In the current crisis, so this article is from 2008, and it appeared in Legal Times. So actually, this article first appeared in a, seems to be legitimate source, but it's been republished here on this, which, you know, I am providing the caveat that it could be biased. Yeah. So it was, Don, was this organization founded by a Koch brother? Because that kind of sucks. I mean, that's the main co-opter I've heard of in the Libertarian Party that's kind of messing it all up. Because, honestly, go look it up. I'm not going to look it up for you, but, go look up the Libertarian Party manifesto. And it just, it's whoa, on paper, this seems incredible. It seems, so real. Okay. All right, so we'll take it. But let's see. This was first published in Legal Times. Which does not have an active website right now. It's the National Law Journal, law.com. Yeah. I think that that's pretty legitimate. I'm like afraid to share something too biased. But I think, given its original, yeah, this is in law.com, which is part of Time magazine. So, I mean, it's not peer reviewed, but I don't know if it's as politically motivated as what the Libertarian Party would be putting out there. But anyway, let's jump into it. Let's see what they have to say about the constitutionality of bailouts. So, in the current crisis, the bank runs and other forms of financial panic could lead to the collapse of the country's or even the world's economic edifice. Extraordinary measures might be in order. In extremis, it may seem quixotic to question the constitutionality of the federal bailout, but it's essential nonetheless. Realists might say, save your ivory tower doubts for the law journals. Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson famously wrote, "The Constitution is not a suicide pact. Douse the flames first, then repair the bad wiring." But a declaration of unconstitutionality, if justified, serves three vital purposes today. It imposes a heavy burden on proponents of the bailout to explain why the Constitution can be violated with impunity. It reinforces the case for abandoning the program once any true emergency has passed. And it helps establish a presumption against adopting similar measures that might be proposed to resolve future emergencies. Bad precedents. Even now, some experts, including my colleagues at the Cato Institute, okay, so this guy is from the Cato Institute, believe that alternative proposals, perhaps even constitutional proposals, could achieve the desired ends without socializing the financial sector and without establishing status precedents that could haunt us for decades or longer. Opponents of the bailout are unconvinced when media pundits and presidential candidates carp about the failure of deregulation, the need for immediate government intervention, and the final days of capitalism. According to bailout skeptics, government created this crisis with everything from artificially low interest rates to political pressures for affordable housing, quick loans for bad credit risk, and the subsidization of agencies such as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The predictable result of those perverse incentives, greatly leverage and more risk. Heads, the private sector wins. Tails, the taxpayer loses. Critics ask why a solution to the problem should now be entrusted to the bureaucrats who got us into this mess. So, I mean, I guess that's a valid point. And this is something that the Constitution doesn't really address. Because the Constitution doesn't address bureaucracies at all, really. Like, how do we have checks and balances for the bureaucracies, especially within the finance sector? And, the same thing with the PPP, and I'm sure the other article will address it, is like, how do you reconcile the bureaucrats that are choosing who gets the money, how they get the money, how they can apply to have the money, loan paid for, versus, because there's definitely like standards and, standards set on who could get the money, how could they get the money. Remember, there was a whole controversy where they tried to set certain boundaries, and they were written in a way where, like, companies like, what was the company that got in heat for it? It's like a big restaurant group that has, like, hundreds of chains, that they got access to millions of dollars through the program when, it wasn't really a suited program for them to be getting money, while there's other small businesses that legitimately were struggling to keep their employees employed, couldn't get access to the money. But anyway, it's a big mess. On that question, I concede insufficient expertise. More important, events on the ground seem to have superseded the policy debate. The bailout moves ahead, never mind that many economists and public finance specialists insist it is more invasive than required and unlikely to address root causes. We embark on this adventure notwithstanding the controversy regarding its necessity and effectiveness. I turn therefore to the threshold question that should have but has not been adequately examined. Is the bailout constitutional? All right, here, let's get to the juicy part. No authority. It is not. All right, we know this guy's opinion. The federal government has no constitutional authority to spend taxpayers' money to buy distressed assets, much less to take on ownership position in private financial institutions. And Congress has no constitutional authority to delegate merely plenary legislative power to the Treasury Secretary, then executive branch official. Congress can proceed only from legitimate authority, not from good intentions alone. That means we must find a constitution pedigree for each proposed law. One possible rationale for the bailout is the all-encompassing Commerce Clause. As the country grew and some people came to believe that most of its problems required national regulatory solutions, Congress sought to find a specific constitutional power that would justify an ambitious federal agenda. The Commerce Clause became the vehicle of choice. Hey Joe, how's it going? Yes, that is not why the clause was written into the Constitution. Under the Articles of Confederation, that was interesting format. Under the Articles of Confederation, the national government lacked the power to regulate interstate commerce. Each state was free to advance local interests and to create barriers to trade without regard to possible prejudice to out-of-state interests. This process devolved into what Justice William Johnson concurred in Gibbons versus Ogden in 1824, characterized as a conflict of commercial regulations destructive to the harmony of the states. All right, so there is a precedent of the Supreme Court saying unconstitutional to intermix government and private financial business. The solution, a constitutional convention at which, according to Johnson, if there was any one object riding over every other in the adoption of the Constitution, it was to keep the commercial intercourse among the states free from all invidious and partial restraints. Instead of serving as that shield against interference by the states, the commerce power has become a sword wielded by the federal government in pursuit of a boundless array of regulatory problems. That financial markets are interstate does not authorize the federal government to do anything and everything to manage those markets. The commerce power is to regulate, but commerce is not regulated by eliminating private risk and substituting tax-funded handouts to favored economic actors. The framers who crafted the Commerce Clause could not have intended to empower Congress to give an executive official virtual carte blanche over all financial institutions. All right, there's a word. There's a smart legal word we could learn. Let's see what that is. Dance break. So carte blanche, let's see how Google wants us to say it.
Carte blanche.
Oh, carte blanche. Carte blanche. Complete freedom to act as one wishes or thinks best. Okay, so I never saw that word in the Constitution anywhere. Maybe it's just like implied. So let me read the sentence again so we can see the whole context of that word. The framers who crafted the Commerce Clause could not have intended to empower Congress to give executive official virtual carte blanche over all financial institutions. So yes, that's right. The Constitution does not have that word anywhere in there under any condition. Moreover, it is not a Commerce Clause arguments to say that Congress created the mess and therefore Congress can do whatever it wants to fix the mess. Legislators' misdeeds do not ipso facto justify the socialization of private banks, brokers, mortgage companies, and insurance companies, and who knows where it stops. Even if Congress could defend the bailout as a means of preventing interstate impediments to commerce, that would not legalize any and all means. But it does make it tricky. It does make it tricky. Again, I don't know the answer, and this person's view is it's biased, I'm sure, but he's basing it on, really clean cut evaluation of the Constitution and what's said there. And sometimes, rules are not black and white, but that's why they said the resolution is that we need to have another Constitution conference so that these things can be ironed out. All right, so the next is no intelligible principle. To legitimately invoke the commerce power, Congress must show not only that a federal program is necessary, but also that it is proper, that is, the program does not violate other foundational principles such as federalism, separation of powers, and limited government. Congress has not made that showing. Indeed, the bailout quite clearly violated the Constitution's separation of powers principle, in particular what has become known as the non-delegation doctrine, which states that Congress may not delegate its legislative power to any other entity, including the cabinet departments of the executive branch. Article 1, Section 1 of the Constitution states, all legislative powers shall be vested in a Congress. A plain reading of that text shows that lawmaking is for the legislative branch, which does not include the Treasury Department. Yet, when Congress authorized the bailout package, it gave Secretary Henry Paulson Jr. unprecedented power to act as a super legislator. Sure enough, the Supreme Court, in a series of cases beginning in 1928, condoned some forms of legislation, some forms of delegation. Sorry. Legislatures may delegate their authority, said the court in W.J. Hampton Jr. versus Company, in Company versus the United States in 1928, so long as Congress shall lay down an intelligible principle to which the person or body authorized is directed to conform. What then is the intelligible principle to which Henry Paulson must conform? No one knows, least at all taxpayers who will bear the cost. Make things better is not an intelligible principle. These days, delegation has become a formula for irresponsibility. Congress gets to claim credit for the supposed benefits of the bailout, yet dodge culpability for the associated costs. But Congress itself, not an executive official, must be accountable for the consequences of laws that Congress puts in place. That tenet has been a cornerstone of our Constitution for more than 2 centuries. John Locke got it right in his second treatise of civil government from 1690. The separation of powers principle means that the legislative branch cannot transfer the power of making laws to any other hands. The legislative power, wrote Locke, is to make laws and not to make legislators. Despite that sound advice, the Treasury Secretary is now the one calling the shots, as he particularly nationalizes a significant sector of our economy. I want to see what the size of that budget was. $498 billion. The one we're talking about right now is larger than that. So it's at a completely different scale now too. But I don't think anybody questioned it because we were just in such a position of emergency. It's all good though. We're here to learn. And at least a lot of that money did get distributed to smaller, more distributed businesses, which, is a good thing compared to the bailouts in this article that he's talking about, the 400 and whatever, almost 500,000, $500 billion in bailouts that were given specifically to like mortgage lenders and banks, like large institutions, and therefore socializing them. So, there's a couple of things that this article is saying that, like, first of all, giving the power for legislators to use some type of like emergency commerce clause, where they can delegate taxpayer money to fund something that they think is better, or will be better for us. And then on top of that, to socialize those programs or those organizations, like leveraging taxpayer dollars to socialize things. and claiming, a state of emergency of getting these things to happen with no one asking questions. All right, so honest choices. Maybe the bailout is necessary. Maybe it will even work. But necessary or not, temporarily effective or not, the bailout is unconstitutional. And constitutionality is not restored merely by the invocation of emergency by the administration and Congress. Conservatives should have learned that lesson when the Great Depression drove the New Deal expansion of government. Liberals should have learned it more recently when civil liberties were compromised in pursuit of real and imagined terrorists. To preserve the rule of law, we must condemn all legislation that offends the Constitution, no matter how unlikely the prospect the courts will invalidate the offending acts. No matter how unwise, from a policy perspective, court intervention might be. When policy is allowed to trump constitutionality, three choices are available to honest citizens. We can abandon the proposal and try to accomplish the desired ends by using alternative but constitutional means. We can change the Constitution so that the proposal is no longer unlawful, or at a minimum, we can acknowledge the truth that we are violating the Constitution in pursuit of demonstrably necessary ends, which could not be otherwise attained. But we have chosen none of the above. Instead, we have proceeded with the bailout despite few, if any, cautionary words about its unconstitutionality. That's a recipe for lawlessness, not to mention a president that will rear its ugly head every time there's serious trouble the federal government thinks it can fix. Okay, so what do you think about that? Dawn, if you're still here, you think that this was too biased of an article? I mean, I think at this end, what he told us, there are three choices we had, is like, I don't think that, I mean, of course he shared his opinion here, but it's like with this conversation that a lot of the community is having around like marginalization of people. It's like, we've gone so long denying that it's happening, and that's how we can like go day by day, making new decisions and progressing without constantly being in a state of anxiety about how our actions are marginalizing others. So we just ignore it. And the step that most activists are advocating for right now is that we just identify it's there. First step is to like state your truth. It's like, okay, it's there. There's marginalization of people, and all of our actions affect that. All of our culture affect that, and then make the movement from there. And so I kind of like how he threw that in at the end, is like, at the minimum, we could just acknowledge that there was a violation here, and that like we want to do better. And that type of mentality is what's going to lead us to holding our representatives accountable for, I mean, what was the next thing here is we can change the Constitution so that the proposal is no longer unlawful. So the first step is to say, okay, we're doing something wrong, like this is unlawful for some reason. And then the next step would be to address, okay, why is it unlawful and how could we make it unlawful? And then like the ultimate achievement after that would be to abandon that way and accomplish the desired ends with an alternative means that are completely constitutional. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but the first thing that we have to say is, yeah, like, nothing bad. We're not trying to retract anything. We're not trying to ask for reparations on anything. We're trying to make steps towards progress. So that's that. So let's go to modern times. We are dealing with something very relevant. And I haven't heard a single person question the constitutionality of all of the relief that has been passed by Congress in dealing with the pandemic, for good reason. You know, it's like one of those like too soon type jokes. You know, it's too soon to make a judgment on it, and we were in a state of emergency. It's kind of interesting looking at it hindsight now, not to deal with like bailouts or money or economics of anything, but like just thinking about even laws around the pandemic that like in the beginning we were super tight on things, and then like the virus actually got worse in like 6-7 months time, but the lawmakers had a completely different perspective about what was going on, and it's almost like we were acting like backwards. We were making the decisions like in the beginning that we probably should have been making more aggressively later on. But who knows? Like, we don't know these things as they're happening, and so that's why a lot of this stuff is not being questioned. We're just saying, okay, this is great. People are out of work. These PPP loans will get people paid. But you know, it's been over a year now. Let's see how the progress is. So this was published yesterday. It is actually a listen, but we'll read it, by Scott Horsley. So when the pandemic hit last year, Andrew Leckie, who runs half a dozen restaurants and a catering company in Edmonds, Washington, was forced to lay off more than 200 employees. Demand for his oysters and craft cocktails had dried up, and his businesses were in trouble until a program intended to provide loans to small businesses like his came to his rescue. I don't think there's any way we would have been able to withstand the financial challenges that existed without this money, Leckie says. Taking advantage of the loan provided by the federal government's Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, he was gradually able to rehire about 3/4 of his workforce. The Paycheck Protection Program, first passed early in the pandemic as part of the CARES Act, was meant to provide loans to help small business owners like Leckie keep workers on the payroll. Businesses wouldn't have to pay the money back as long as they used most of the loan proceeds to pay staff. But despite plenty of success stories like Leckie's, there's little consensus on how many paychecks it actually protected. A question that lingers as the PPP is due to wind down in coming weeks after it depletes all of its available funds. Again, that's $800 billion. $800 billion. That's almost twice as much as the bank bailout of 2008. The program, after several extensions passed by the Congress, guaranteed more than 10 million loans to small businesses during the pandemic at a cost of more than $770 billion so far. The Small Business Administration oversaw the program, and initial demand was overwhelming. The first $350 billion Congress set aside for loans was snapped up in less than 2 weeks. But it was hit by controversies from the start. People were outraged when wealthy and well-connected outfits like the burger chain Shake Shack, oh, that was the one, Shake Shack, that was the one, and the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team got loans while others were left in the sidelines. Some big borrowers were shamed into giving the money back, which I do believe that Shake Shack did give the money back. The Justice Department also brought more than 100 criminal cases alleging fraud against the program. In its push to get money out the door quickly, the Small Business Administration approved more than 2 million loans that were later flagged as potentially problematic. 2 million? Oh my goodness. Is that polite? I don't think so. 2 million applications that were problematic? That's not polite at all. The scale of this program is so beyond anything the Small Business Administration has had to run previously, it's mind-blowing, says Sean Moulton of watchdog group Project on Government Oversight. How well did it work? I don't think anyone has a good answer to that question, he adds. Economists have also raised questions about whether the loans actually kept workers on the job or simply subsidized businesses that would have been open anyway. We really underestimated the ability of lots of not-in-person service businesses to not only continue doing what they were doing, but even do more of it, says economist John Friedman of Brown University. As a result of that, a lot of the PPP money went to firms that were in fact not really that affected by the pandemic. Friedman and his colleagues estimated that in its first 4 months, the loan program actually saved only about 1.5 million jobs, at a cost of about $377,000 each. Michael Falkender, who is an assistant Treasury Secretary to Economic Policy in the Trump administration, helped craft the loan program, argues that it played a much larger role helping to save more than 18 million jobs during its early months. I think relative to how devastating things could have been, PPP was extraordinarily successful, Faulkner says. Faulkner argues that without the loan program, even more people would have been dumped into the unemployment system, which was already overwhelmed by millions of laid-off workers seeking benefits. A survey by the Federal Reserve last year found 82% of small employers applied for a PPP loan, and 77% of those who applied received all the money they asked for. Nearly half of those firms still reduced the number of workers they employed. But layoffs, okay, that was an important one. Let's focus on that number again. "82% of small employers applied for a PPP loan, and 77% of those who applied received all the money they asked for." So that's a good number. It means people got the money. The small businesses, small-scale employers got the money. But nearly half of those firms still reduced the number of workers they employed. So it didn't really, didn't really help them. I mean, it helped them, but did it really help in the way that they thought it was going to help? That term subsidized is better, because these companies probably would have already had the cash flow to support that limited staff. Of course, the pandemic has dragged on much longer than that, but despite the doubts, there are plenty of success stories. Andre Hall credits a PPP loan for keeping his New Jersey kitchen cabinet company afloat during a period when no one wanted strangers taking measurements inside their home. "For me, it's about the people," Hall said. "The company, we can survive it, but the people, if they fall, it's hard to get back up." Or take Lecky. His business partner improvised a takeout menu that included barbecue and fried chicken. They added outdoor verandas to the restaurants with plastic protection against the wind and rain. And after taking the advantage of 2 rounds of PPP loans, he's still in business. "I just feel as though it's been a blessing that we're able to still be standing today," he said, "and I think the PPP has played a big part in that." So, various perspectives on this story, but I think the key statistic there that we can keep in mind is that over 50% of the companies that received PPP loans did reduce their staff. And I don't think that stat really means it's a terrible thing. I think it just means these loans they're just helping subsidize the businesses. And so some of them probably did need it. I mean, I'll be honest, with TLET, like, I'm the only employee. I'm the only employee on payroll. So whenever I made the application, I mean, the amount of loan that we got, was definitely helpful in keeping my minimal, super modest paycheck going. But at the rate that I was paying myself, like, that loan didn't make or break my ability to keep paying myself. Like, there was a time there where I did stop paying myself, just because there was so much uncertainty when the pandemic started, and I knew that, like, holding on to as much cash as possible to weather the storm was going to be a really smart move for our business. And yeah, I'm grateful we got the PPP loans, but it was hardly anything. I'm still grateful. Of course, I have to be grateful, but there are some companies that were receiving millions of dollars. Like, what was this number they had? The loan program actually saved about 1.5 million jobs at a cost of about $377,000 each. 377,000. Yeah, so the amount of money that I took to save my job is nothing close to that. It wasn't even like 1/400th of that. It was a very small amount that I was able to get through the loan program. But again, I'm grateful. I am very grateful for everything. I just wanted to talk about this today. I saw this article and I thought it was, the first time I'd heard any type of, like, not criticism, but just questioning about how effective our relief programs have been over the past year. And then to see that, yeah, I think the moral of today's talk is that bailouts, as well as several other things, I'm sure we could identify as being unconstitutional. Even the police force and how the authority that's given to the police force could be deemed unconstitutional. And in the article that we read, as biased as it was a legal expert that said the only solution is a new constitution convention to like fully dive into what the issues are and what protocols can be put in place to make everything legal, and then also allow for us to reach the goals that we have, especially during times of emergency. And we've certainly been dealing with a time of emergency over the past year. I might show a little demo of that game. T-Farm Simulator. 2 leaves in a bud. Let's see, I can play the video here. That we can make yellow tea and matcha tea modeled on real tea chemistry. 2 leaves in a bud. Tea garden simulator. I don't know, is there more? I doubt there's more here. But I think next Tuesday I will be playing this game, as well as the Puncto game. I'm very interested in that one as well. Oh, my chance to becoming a tea master. I think that's a little pretentious, but it's okay. The graphics look cool though. Terrible for the environment, the way they got this all set up. What's that say? It says, it's your chance of becoming the master of your tea estate to brew up your journey towards discovering ancient secrets. Okay, I'm looking forward to knowing what the ancient secrets are. Nurturing the plant with skills beyond perfection and finding your way through processing to be called the ultimate tea master. Let's see the reviews. Okay, all recommend, not recommended. Okay, there's one not recommended, but everyone else is recommended. Let's see what they say. Alright, so it seems like there's some bugs and issues, but they're getting cleared quickly. A fun game. Don't expect much from it. It's unfinished, but still worth playing. So these are the positive features. Interesting concept and idea, good visual component, easy to understand and start to play. But unfortunately, this game has some problems with the UI. So just gotta be patient with that, I guess. So let's see the not recommended. I really want to like this game, but it won't register that the tea was processed and therefore I can't progress. And also the audio setting is based on the save, not the game. So if you're constantly making new saves to try to fix glitches, you'll have the single audio slider set back to full every time. There's other issues, but at early access, so I understand it. Oh, this guy gave a recommended review, but then also is talking about getting a refund, so that's confusing. Yeah, I mean, as tea people, we kind of have to play the tea game.
This beachfront verbo is...
Oh, this is his.
Tea Garden Simulator. So let's begin. The game is super relaxing music. I love it. And it makes you want to go and take a cup of tea, which is exactly the point. So here you can see the beautiful waterfalls and the river that goes to our farm. So this is our farm. So the first thing you have to do, you have to build a workers' quarter. So you can see we got our workers around here, and we're gonna start by this land, and we're gonna plant some tea. We can pick the type of a tea. So you might ask, which tea do we want to make? We'll find out in a moment. Hello, tea planter. I'm the manager. Thought I was the manager. I am the manager of you. I got a task for you. Okay, what do you want me to do? I want you to make green tea. So if you don't know how to do it, we can actually check out the recipe here. So green tea, we have to, in the withering machine, we have to keep it for 10 seconds at a temperature of 28 degrees. And then we have to roast or fix it for 20 seconds for 299 degrees. But first, we gotta grow it. So we have clone type 8, the standard one. And we're going to start planting. We're gonna try to plant 2. And we're gonna wait 1 day. It's probably more like a month than a day. But you know, it works. So we're gonna keep clicking. We're gonna see it start growing. So it slowly grows. Sometimes it can be a good idea to not have them at the same time, because then you could send your workers to always be doing something, but that's okay, we're fine. I'm gonna let them finish it. Now, as soon as the seedling phase finishes, you have to harvest it. But in order to harvest it, you have to put the stuff somewhere. So we're gonna build a small leaf holding area. I think we should be okay with 1. And we're gonna pick the holding area, and we're gonna try to pluck it. And hopefully we're going to get, yeah, so we get 39. I should have done the other one as well, but I forgot, never mind. 39 leaves over there. Then here, we would also like to pluck it. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, we don't have enough workers. So once they, actually, let's get another set of workers, and we'll tell them to
Fascinating.
Pluck this one as well. Now, we already have some leaves here, so what we're going to do is we're going to go inside the factory, and we're going to build a withering machine and a roasting. I'm going to put the roasting ones a little bit further ahead so I can see it a bit better. Roasting fixing machine. So, go back to our recipe, and for the green tea, we have to have withering machine 10 seconds, 28 degrees.
What?
With low airflow and temperature.
10 seconds.
So low airflow and temperature, 28 degrees, 10 seconds. Perfect. And for the roasting fixing, 20 seconds, 299 degrees. So 20 seconds.
This is
and 299 degrees. All right, everything is set up, And now we're gonna start, and we're gonna grab the leaves from here. We're gonna pick them,
Alright,
and we'll
so
bring
we'll
them
just have to
into
play.
the withering
We'll
mist.
just have to play and see how accurate it is. So next Tuesday I should be playing this game. Alright. I think I'm ready to go. Get some work done, hang out. Maybe I'll be lucky enough and get some hot pot. I should hit my friends up, see if they want to get hot pot tonight. That sounds so yummy. Well, the weather's been kind of chilly here. So yeah, the hot pot's a good chance for that. Well, let's see what T-Friends is doing. She's live right now. She might have just started. Oh, she's drinking tea outside. Let's go join her. She looks like she's having a lovely time outdoors. Yeah, it does look like Farmville, but it's a tea. It's a tea factory. It's a tea garden tea factory. So I'll be playing it from next Tuesday. You all can watch me play it. We'll see how accurate it is. A tea Farmville. It could be fun. Jonelle, I hope you're doing well. I'm about to sign out, but I will see you next time. Thank you for dropping in and saying hello.